it fucking sucks. The screenplay sucks, the acting sucks, the direction sucks, the characters suck, the action sucks, the editing sucks, the pacing sucks, the cinematography ain't actually all that bad, but the design and overall aesthetic sensibility are thematically inappropriate to the point of unwitting self-parody and also suck. And if I sound more resigned than passionately infuriated by this one, it's because if you're the dumb fuck who's surprised that a cheap-ass Fox superhero movie getting dumped in early August is a bucket of room-temperature Skrull shit, I've got some prime real estate on the blue area of the moon I'd like to sell to you. It's kind of cosmically noteworthy that the Fantastic Four movies actually seem to be getting worse. The first one was a sloppy, cheap-looking disaster tossed together by Roger Corman to help settle a rights dispute and was never even truly intended to be released, but you could at least recognize the energy and enthusiasm of the classic comics. The less said about the two more recent 24-frame-per-second urethra scraping that turned Doctor Doom into a mincing candy-ass pansy and Galactus into a fucking cloud, the better, and now we've got this retina-violating debacle that somehow manages to outstrip X-Men Origins Wolverine as the worst Fox superhero movie by many miles, which means that among his other sterling accomplishments, yeah, the best Fantastic Four movie is still the one made by Roger fucking Corman. Not only is Fox's new Fantastic Four reboot, or Fant4stick, as we're apparently spelling it for some appalling reason, such a tragic disaster that there ought to be stuffed animals and votive candles piling up in front of the theater, it's also the latest garbage blockbuster to wash up on shore, tangled up in a flaccid mess of anti-hype about its own troubled production, helpfully drip-fed to the entertainment press tailpipe chuggers by craven shit merchants and studio marketing to ensure that, should any of the quote-unquote leaked behind-the-scenes fecal flinging have any noticeable brown smears left on the finished product, anyone who points it out can be dismissively waved off as having been influenced by gossip or fanboyism. But fuck that game. I'm here to tell you that not only does the Emperor have no clothes, he also forgot to wipe. But hey, right up front, yes, I love the classic Fantastic Four comics. I'm nonplussed that they've junked the more colorful, whimsical, and, well, fantastical elements of it in favor of some asshole's idea of a grounded, realistic, which coincidentally also means cheaper to produce take that owes more to the abysmal Ultimate Fantastic Four run, and I despise how gray, murky, dreary, and downbeat the whole goddamn affair is, but all of that could be easily set aside if only they'd rallied and made a good movie out of it. Or if that's too much to fucking ask, at least a bad movie whose badness wasn't so clearly indicative of all the pre-production crap Fox expects you to forget about. You know, like that the only reason this digitally projected teratoma exists is because Fox is in a stupid dick-measuring blood feud with Marvel Studios over the movie rights to various Marvel properties, and that they were required to finish and release a Fant4stick movie within a certain window, regardless of whether or not they had a compelling reason to actually do so. None of which would matter had they managed to accidentally piss out a gold nugget instead of their usual broccoli-scented kidney stone, which Fox did manage to do once, but, spoiler, ain't what happened here. Yes, we're in the same godforsaken diarrhea swamp of filmmaking mandated by accountants and contract lawyers as opposed to storytellers that led to the creation of the now-defunct Amazing Spider-Man movies. A series so bad Marvel had to step in and assume shared custody of poor browbeaten Peter Parker from Sony, and the only thing that keeps this cheese grater across the nuts of genre film from being as aneurysm-inducing as those infamous shit biscuits is that it's near totally lacking in ambition. You have to try to suck as hard as the post-Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies did. All that was required here was the laziness to lurch into production, accepting that you had almost no new ideas and ignorant that the ideas you did have were fucking stupid. To that end, the film is a feature-length origin story, because who could possibly be sick of that tosses out the main character's Kennedy-era space race origins in favor of a significantly diminished retread of director Josh Trank's previous movie Chronicle, inasmuch as both films are about largely unlikable high school-age dipshits who accidentally get superpowers, in this case while participating in experiments and teleporting matter into and out of an alternate dimension. Or another planet, it's actually kind of unclear. As is the sphincter-blistering idiocy of repeating the same mistake of the previous films in changing Doctor Doom from probably the greatest comic book supervillain ever, seriously, he's a dictator and a mad scientist and sometimes a wizard kind of, how do you fuck that up, into a narratively shortchanged fifth wheel who tags along on the mission because he's got a thing for Sue and gets powers of his own. Anyway, the fucking thing goes on forever, introducing our one-dimensional characters, fleshing out their boring backstories until they get their powers, and then after one scene of kinda interesting stuff where their conditions are showed more like PG-13 body horror than superhero stuff, the whole thing inexplicably cuts ahead to the main heroes having been conscripted as secret weapon covert ops soldiers by the military months later and being held captive in a bunker while ostensibly looking for a cure. And yes, it's as fucking random as it sounds. It honestly feels like there's a reel missing from the movie, except movies aren't projected from reels anymore, and frankly, I can't imagine what they would have cut out that might have been worse than the worm-infested seagull droppings they left in. Unless you think it might just be an excuse to generate action scenes, nope, everyone just kinda hangs around moping about powers and unconvincingly setting up would-be crises of conscience because then they don't have to go anywhere, and it wouldn't be a Fox genre movie if 90% of it didn't take place in money-saving interchangeable underground base sets and overcast Vancouver forests. There's one quick detour for a pointless thread about Reed Richards going AWOL where the effects and green screen composites are so fake-looking, I actually kept expecting a goddamn Sharknado to come blowing by. Sadly, the scene and the film as a whole just continues to blow all on its own, though as should be obvious, not in the satisfactory sense of that word. Just more grumping and moping and alleged superheroes sitting around navel-gazing until Dr. Doom, and no, really, that saran-wrapped effigy of tanning bed abuse you're seeing on your screen is supposed to be Dr. fucking Doom, turns back up at the very end, still alive and now evil for reasons that aren't explained, with psychic powers that aren't explained, looking to destroy Earth for motives that haven't yet been explained. There's a brief, boring fight scene, the world is saved, whatever, nobody fucking cares, and it's over. Really, that's fucking it. Now, not that friggin' Brando could have redeemed this tampon cocktail, but the acting is shit across the board, with Toby Kebbell taking the cake as a Victor Von Doom, who looks and acts like Adam Levine cosplaying Roman Reigns. Kate Mara claims the dubious distinction of being the least empowered, interesting, or even narratively useful version of Sue Storm ever, and I'm including the fainting doormat version from the earliest comics. An infuriatingly disposable role within a film that can't even be asked to pretend it has any interest in one female voice or perspective. Jamie Bell is wasted as the Thing, who's never allowed any of the outsized personality that's always been the whole goddamn point of the character, and whose generic brown rock monster execution is a ball-shriveling capitulation to gritty realism, in the face of one of Jack Kirby's most ingeniously inscrutable alien-looking creature designs. And Miles Teller shouldn't be in movies, except for movies where actual good actors keep slapping the taste out of his mouth, cause that never gets old. And look, I know there's a huge temptation to give a soft pass to Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm because you don't want to give ammunition to the racist assholes on the internet who are all butthurt about the Human Torch being a black guy now, but sorry, he sucks as much as everyone else does in this. No one was going to emerge unscathed from a movie this bad. Yes, Jordan is a legit great actor. No, this ain't his fault. Don't worry, film critics, Creed looks good. You've got plenty more chances to establish that you always knew he was the next big thing, so calm the fuck down. What's sadly ironic is that audiences are almost certain to take one taste of this horror show and vomit it back up faster than an Ipecac suppository, but mainly because it's slow, joyless, and largely devoid of action, as opposed to the actual reasons that it sucks. I mean, the screenplay is Transformers-level infantile garbage, but those wretched fucking movies still make money because explosions. It's entirely possible to make a superhero movie that's thoughtful and explorative instead of just action, but that requires something to be thoughtful about. And Fant Four Stick is so forced and dumb, thought period feels like asking too much of it. It's all dressed up in its best sad sack suit with no actual theme to justify all the moodiness. Reggie Cathy spends most of the movie speechifying about teamwork and collective achievement, and the only way it pays off is for the heroes to eventually realize it's more effective to punch the bad guy all at once. Nothing is more insufferable than a blithering idiot who thinks he's the smartest motherfucker in the room, and this guano-greased desecration of one of the comics medium's most enduring works is the celluloid manifestation of exactly that pretentious asshole. Could we use more deliberate, deeper textured, pseudo-cerebral brand of superhero movie? Absolutely, but what we don't need is a cheapjack accounting ledger line item badly trying to pass off its basic shortcomings as some kind of organic, palm-molded, craft-brewed, small-batched, locally sourced, carbon-neutral, grass-fed, paleo-compliant, hand-stitched, artisanal alternative to the enjoyable version. Yeah, suffice it to say, Fantastic Four sucks the Thing's curiously absent rock dick. Everybody congratulate Marvel on probably getting their toys back sooner than expected, and let's all please find something better to do with our motherfucking weekend. Please.